Hey everybody, Pete from the GenWell Project here for another connected conversation today. Another part of our series that we launched with the start of COVID-19, the global pandemic, in an effort to keep people connected to people, ideas, tools, and organizations that can help us all stay connected during these challenging times and find the solutions and the coping strategies that will help build the resilience that will get us all to the other side. It's all brought to you by the GenWell Project, the human connection movement, whose mission is to make the world a happier and healthier place by reminding people about the importance of face-to-face social connection, even if it's virtual for the time being or through physical distancing, which now indicates that it has as great or greater benefits than physical activity and eating well. All those things are important, but making sure that people understand the importance of human connection is more critical today than it's ever been before. Today on the show, we have Allie Salama, who hasn't yet joined us in the broadcast room. So as I do the introduction here, I'm going to be looking to see if Allie has joined us, and hopefully he'll be able to join us. He did mention that he was going to be a couple minutes late. He texted me a few minutes ago, so hopefully Allie will be joining us, and maybe he's even tuned in out there, and we'll find him shortly. Allie is the Middle East Youth Mental Health Ambassador, lives here in Toronto, and has lots of perspectives on youth mental health and how kids are dealing with COVID-19. You know, this was already a crisis before COVID-19 became an issue. And right now here in Canada, it's part of Reading Week, and a lot of students are away from school already from digital technology, but now they're separated from families during a time that many of them might have had the opportunity to go home. So we'll talk a little bit about that today with Allie. And certainly this week on our social media feeds for the GenWell Project, we're focusing on young people. We're focusing on students and the challenges that they're facing being virtual in their schooling and missing those opportunities to connect with other people, other students, other peers their age, because it all adds up to a disconnected world. And as I said earlier, the research is clearer than anything ever before about the importance of human connection in our lives. Not only is it the single largest indicator of happiness, just going to text Allie here. Email in your email. It's always tougher to type when you're stressed. In your email. You know, the research is clearer than ever before that spending time with other people is the single largest indicator of happiness in our lives, reduces anxiety and depression, increases empathy, compassion, resilience, strengthens our immune system and our self-confidence, and increases our chances of living longer by up to 50%. And even as short as about 6 weeks ago, there was a new study out of Massachusetts General Hospital suggesting that social connection is the single largest preventative action that we can all take to prevent depression in our lives. And so each and every week, there seems to be new information coming out about the importance of human connection in our lives, something that none of us were ever educated on, because most of us were told to go to the gym. We know to exercise 30 to 60 minutes a day. We know to eat properly vegetables and fruit. In Canada, the Canadian Food Guide has been around for 80 years. And we had a program called Participation since the 1970s. And so we know those fundamental needs. The unfortunate reality is most of us don't know the need for human connection in our lives, even though right now I think we're waking up to that reality more so than ever before. Let me just reach back out to Allie because he's trying to get in. Firefox or... Hello, Allie Salama. How you doing? I'm just on the show here. You have to go in through Firefox or Chrome. Yeah. No, but let me, here, I'm going to send it to you again on WhatsApp. and hopefully we can get you on here. But we'll make it happen. I'm not stressed. All right, here it comes on WhatsApp, and we'll get you on here. Okay. These are the technical challenges that we face. Yep, you should say yes to that. That's so that I can see you. No, I can't see you. Why can't I? Oh, do you need to disable your allow your pop-ups? Okay. Yeah, that might have been it. All right, here are the technical challenges that we face as we are trying to connect with our guest today, Allie Salama, Middle East Mental Health Ambassador. He is on the other line and trying to connect with us. But we'll get through this. I'm not too concerned. So I'm just going to keep entertaining the folks here. So as I was saying, everyone, it's we're looking forward to having Allie on here because I think Allie has such a unique take on the world of youth mental health, being an ambassador to mental health, both here in Toronto, in Canada, and also in the Middle East, and certainly with the challenges that young people are facing right now, being away from school, doing virtual learning, a lot of those things that make that experience so powerful are things that they're not able to take advantage of right now. So, any luck, Allie?
I am. Yes, allow. Perfect. Yes, it's working.
Woo!
We are on.
What's that?
We are on broadcasting.
Oh, there you are. I can see you now. Okay, I'm going to bring Allie into the conversation. And I turn this off. Hello, Allie Salama.
How are you, Pete?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good. I did not know that ad blockers prevent like these things from happening. So I actually didn't just pause the ad blocker. I deleted it from my Chrome. So
well, I think again, this is the powerful thing about going through this experience is it's forcing us all to come to the realization of many things that we didn't know before. And, hey, most of us weren't doing shows, but we got people doing podcasts, people doing video things, and this is how we learn. So it's the new world, right?
It is. And it's a very interesting one. I think it's one where we are being tested every day, mentally, physically, emotionally, compartmentalizing things where we have to stay in the same spot for hours and hours. How do we separate work from life, from how do we have meaningful connections? And I'm really excited to sort of really tap into that with you. I think so many people, when I come to speak, especially with young people, they're feeling quite anxious and quite scared because the reality is that we don't really know when this is going to end, but the reality is that we have to deal with this and we have to be present and we have to be happy with what we sort of have for us happening. So it's the situation where we have to make the best out of our world, but how? That's the biggest question. How are we going to do that? And we're all finding out.
Allie, you've said so in one or two sentences. I think you've encapsulated the youth, and frankly, it's not youth. I think youth have unique challenges that we'll talk about, but I think everybody is trying to figure out how to cope with this. And we've had, you joined us back, I think in April when we first kicked off Connected Conversations. And at that time, I think for many of us, we were kind of looking at this thing as an extended vacation or a holiday from school or work or whatever. And now I think we've woken up to recognize that this is the new future for a while, and that we do need to find our way to cope through the days, how to compartmentalize work from life to health to all the different components. And as I talked to a few people yesterday, like, it's tiring.
Yeah, of course.
And I think people are getting burnt out. And I think social connection, as I shared with you on an email yesterday, now that we know, there's a study out of Massachusetts General and out of Harvard saying that social connection is the single greatest action we can all take to avoid depression. It makes us now recognize that going for a walk and eating better are important, but right now we need each other more than ever before. So before we jump into those details, Allie, let me start. I look at you and I look at the work that we do at GenWell as a caregiver. And oftentimes caregivers don't put the oxygen mask on themselves and take care of them. So I want to ask you, 8 months into the pandemic, how are you doing?
Yeah, that's a very insightful question. How am I doing? I'm making sure to put myself first, and I never really thought of that in these specific terms before. I'm definitely realizing I am not at my, most productive. I'm not the most productive I am. I definitely know that I could be doing a lot better, but I definitely know that I've built a lot more self-compassion, and that's something that I didn't really ever realize I didn't have much of. It's so important for us to realize that this is a moment in time where everyone is feeling the same. Everyone is a bit worn out. Everyone is tired, and regardless of how you spend your days, if you're the most energetic type of person, uh, unfortunately the reality is that you can't. For many people, of course, for people who have online businesses, that's a different story. But for people that are used to always going out, for people that aren't used to working from home, for people that are used to movement, we have a saying in Arabic, al-haraka fiha baraka. Movement, there's a blessing in movement. There's a blessing in every aspect, in every facet of your life. When you move more, you feel lighter, you experience light much more fuller. And when that isn't at its 100% because of the pandemic, we have to take a step back and do the basics. What are the basics? The basics are, making sure you're taking care of yourself. How do you do that? Well, are you eating well? Are you making sure that, you're calling the people that you love the most? Are you saying the I love yous? Are you really offering yourself to be of service? Sometimes when we're on our deathbeds, we only realize, I wish I would have just done this in my life, or I wish I would have done this. You take a step farther away from everything in your work, and you realize that what was important was important. And I think this has allowed us to really reflect on those notions. What is really important in our lives? What am I missing out, truly, and not financially? What am I missing out on the experience? Because everyone is feeling that lonesome in one way, shape, or form, whether it's at work when they couldn't really communicate just as much as they could before, cracking jokes in the cubicle, or whether it's just living by themselves in their personal life. So I think that's important to take note of.
Hey, Allie, did you age by 50 years since we last spoke? Because everything wow, so much of what you just said there, and I think some powerful takeaways. So routine, I think we're out of our routines. And we as a human species, we love routine because we know what's coming and we can plan and we can organize. And we're okay with a little bit of spontaneity in there. But when our whole life is spontaneous, that becomes a bit of a challenge. That's constant change, constant struggle. And then I think, the other part that you mentioned there was just about focusing on the things that we can control. And, we've had positive psychologists, we've had psychologists, we've had workplace mental health people, we've had you on before. And if there's one consistent factor in the feedback that we've been given to date, it's really focusing on the things that you can control. None of us knows when this is going to end. None of us knows how good or bad the economy is going to be. None of us know if we're all going to have jobs or none of us are going to have jobs. And the important thing is recognizing we are in this together. We're living it differently. But as long as I know you got my back and I got your back, and that our neighbors and our friends and our family will all be there for us, no matter what we go through, then that is what builds part of the resilience that helps us push forward and take that one step in front of the other as we move forward. So I think you again, both the comments that you've made have just encapsulated so much about what we're going through and what you're doing and what others might want to consider on how to get through this.
Yeah, and I think, when we come to think of what we can control, I think that it's important to ask ourselves, well, if we can control the food that we eat, and we can control perhaps how we can move, if someone's a little bit worried going outside, or they live in a condominium, or they're not comfortable yet going outside, perhaps setting up a place in your home and anchoring that as, the workout place, and just going there and only going to that space when you feel you need to get in that frame of mind. With day after day, that builds a feeling that, of excitement, that feeling of liveliness, of energy. You feel more when you anchor yourself, and I'm actually doing that. I'm doing that more throughout my days. I'm making sure that, I have certain places in my home that I only access when I want to feel certain things. So, for example, the couch in the morning, I always want to read first thing in the morning before I, become reactive. I want to be proactive. For example, at 3 p.m., I usually want to work out. So I have this yoga mat, and I have this goal that I want to hit X amount of push-ups or sit-ups. And is that going to bring me the body that, I would love, or the gym would bring me? No, but it keeps me in a state of mind where, I'm doing the most that I can. And that, believe it or not, Pete, it creates some sort of internal locus of control, and it makes you feel like you are you're able to act on certain challenges, and that translates into so many things in your life during this state of the pandemic that we're going through.
I think this is all amazing information, Allie, because this is what Connected Conversations is intended to do. And I'm sure you didn't implement these things 1 week in or 2 weeks in, because we were all just kind of getting comfortable. But over the course of the last 8 months, you've found your way to create the rituals that I think not only, get you to focus on the things that you can control, but also help segment your day and compartmentalize, as you said earlier, so that you're not missing your mental health or your physical health work, that you're not missing your social connections, that you're still pushing forward on the different projects, from Empower Magazine to your podcasting to all the different things that you have in play, including your speaking, which I know you're trying to do more speaking. Tell me a little bit more about the work that you're doing from speaking, and how can people get a hold of Allie if they want to bring you in to hear more?
Yeah, so that's actually amazing, Pete. And one thing I realized, in this pandemic was a lot more opportunities started to arise from speaking, such as the conference that we held, and the government sort of funded it, or such as, I believe, the Canadian Mental Health Association at the youth panel that we were at. And I certainly believe that speaking has allowed me to understand a little bit more of what we need, as whether it be in the Canadian culture, in the Middle Eastern culture, or in minority cultures in general, because it's not just the Middle Eastern culture. I realized that, all minority cultures have the same pain points, whether it be or similar pain points, whether we've learned from Black Lives Matter, the activism that's been going on to all the minority issues in communities that are being hidden under the rug. So if I were to speak on sort of how or what I bring when I like to speak, I typically really like to speak on leadership and mental health and well-being from a youth perspective. And I believe it's very important to factor in what this next generation is going through entering the workplace and the workforce, because we're investing into them as the government. We're investing into them with education and programs, but the reforms that are happening right now um, really need a lot more focus and attention for us to empower them and include them into the conversation. Because it's not good enough to just have the big guys on the table making decisions for youth for their future. We need to be able to include youth voices and bring and empower them to be able to have a much more safer tomorrow, and to be able to have them feeling like they can participate and that their voice can be heard for tomorrow. So I think it's very important for for me and for many others to feel like, we understand that our employers tomorrow are going to care about mental wellness in the workforce, to understand that employers tomorrow will understand that our anxieties and our mental health issues can stem from a pandemic that is like this, that could hurt uh, our certainty. So I think initiatives like offering uh, open and safe spaces for people, whether it's in universities or whether it is in corporations, that is so important for us to be able to feel safe and thrive. Because if our psychological needs aren't met, and if we're talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you know how fundamental those are right at the bottom. You can't expect people to perform right at their top and at their peak. So I think it's very important to be able to empower youth leaders and speakers like myself and like others to be able to take that opportunity and to be able to help that next generation walking into the business and workforce.
Yeah, I do. I couldn't agree with you more. And again, I think your message is so important for leaders to hear. And I do believe that safe spaces, a big part of this is also, our message at the Genwell Project is all about human connection. And if we want those safe spaces, we have to connect people so that we can build a greater empathy and understanding for one another. And that's why you, as an ambassador of the campaign, believe in what we're trying to do, which is really a complement to all the work in the mental health community. We're trying to get people to take the actions that keep them happy and healthy so that they can avoid ending up in a mental health crisis or, frankly, a physical health crisis, because human connection relates to both of them. So, you've got our support and all the work that you do out there. And certainly, both from a youth perspective, which I guess we could put youth into the marginalized communities, but also, new Canadians, immigration, people who aren't surrounded by the people that they've grown up with their own families, because they might be somewhere else, or who may be here working remotely or going to school remotely. We have a lot of big champions of the Genwell Project, of students that are overseas from home going to school in Toronto or Canada. And it's such a different experience that isn't, and I know your mom's back home.
Yeah.
And I know that those separations right now, when we're in these crises, when we need people and we need support, become really challenging. How are you finding it, in these COVID times, both you, but also I want to understand just how youth, you see youth on a global scale, because you're from Egypt, because you're Egyptian, because you live in Canada. You're an ambassador for mental health in the Middle East and here. What are you hearing? How are young people coping during the pandemic with their mental health? But just in general, how are they coping through their days? What are you hearing out there?
Well, yeah, I think what you said there, Pete, is absolutely fantastic. And um, what I'm hearing is loneliness, and what I'm hearing is the need for more connection. And what I'm hearing is, as much as we want to socially distance and as much as we want to isolate, Some of us, are taking the precautions and visiting one another, because we just can't take it anymore. We can't stay by ourselves for that long. And I think it's very important to factor in social media and the impact of social media for young people during the pandemic. Social media can be a great tool for us to connect and have conversations like these, but those are productive ways of using social media. There are other unproductive ways of using social media that make us feel more left out, and all the projections that we are being sold to, or the lifestyles that other people, many other countries that aren't in Canada are not taking the precautions that we're taking and are living differently. And that's not healthy. And I just want to point out also that for young people, the most important thing for us is feeling connected and happy. And that is a major struggle today. And because of that, I think that, when you reached out and with the General Project, the very start, I believe it was then December 2019 when we met at the startup, the Toronto tech startup. I think it was a great, great, great compliment to to the welfare of all youth and to the welfare of the message of mental health and well-being. Because I don't think you can actually um, feel very healthy mentally if you're not connected with and binded by love and the innate emotions that you want to feel as a human being, whether you are in a workplace environment or whether you are in a personal setting. And I think we need to understand that this is derived from us living in tribes back in the days. Individualism is good, but up to a certain extent. We have to understand that, we have to remember where we come from, our roots. Our roots are all derived from pure bonding and the need to serve others. I think happiness is something we're all chasing as young people, because unfortunately we see very mature people that are supposed to have their shenanigans together, and they look wealthy, but they are not happy, and this bothers us. And so in times like these, we are starting to realize the importance of coming together, checking up on one another, and truly building meaningful connections. And it's something that we are prioritizing, I think, more than ever nowadays as young people, especially living in Canada and in countries that are developed that allow us to have that ease of access.
Ali, again, first off, thank you for your support of the Gen Well Project and our mission to get people to be more aware of the importance of human connection. I think for the longest time, from a mental health standpoint, we've only focused on the crisis. We've focused on helping people when they're in the crisis, and, who should you call? What should you do? How should you talk to people? But I think the time has come to stop only waiting until people are sick before we start to educate people on how they can stay happy and healthy. And I don't know if you and I have actually had this conversation before, but I'm a massive Maslow's hierarchy fan. And, human connection, love and belonging is a human innate need, as you talked about. But here's the interesting thing is that you and I were never educated on this. I took first year psychology in university, and I think we studied Maslow for one day. And nowhere else in my entire life of schooling and education was I ever educated about the importance of human connection. I had a friend over this morning for a physically distanced coffee, and we talked about the importance of human connection. And we talked about families, his being one, that was very tight, and all the kids always came to their house, and we always connected. And their family, I don't even know if they understood the why they were doing it, but they appreciated the connections and the bond and the community that they were building. And I think if we can actually help young people understand this before they get to be 40 and 50 and they wake up recognizing that what they were chasing wasn't what made them happy in the first place, to your point, when you talked about people that don't have all their shenanigans in place. And I thought that was awesome that you used the word shenanigan, because I don't hear that very often. But I think if we can educate young people on what is important, and Maslow's hierarchy is a great tool to use for people to actually say, even when we're talking earlier about focusing on the fundamentals, if you understand the hierarchy, you know the things that you need to focus on first before you can worry about the other stuff. And I think, and oftentimes we have gotten carried away in building such an individualistic society over the last 50 years that we thought we didn't need each other. And now we're waking up in a world where we can recognize that we need each other more than ever before.
Yeah, that's true, Pete. And especially for the younger generations, a pandemic like this really helped us to, it's kind of like a bubble being burst, because it was only going to get worse and worse and worse and worse with people being more individualistic and people chasing after all the material stuff that we see that is so close. You have someone starting a YouTube page and within 1 year he has 1 million followers and he's getting, asked to promote this product, easy money. And it's very important to mention these more than realistic examples, because I've had a couple of friends that are purely now, whether they are making music and uploading it to Spotify. I mean, the world has changed today. The world seriously has for young people. For young people, you can start a side project and it can be your gig, but that isn't the way for everybody, right? It is very important to realize that while this is an option, that doesn't mean that everyone should strive for this, because it's not easy. And of course it looks easy, but in reality it's not. So when a pandemic like this hits, we start to really focus on our most important needs. And so all the fluff that we used to live within and all this fantasy we used to live in starts to now turn into a reality, to understand, well, why am I feeling like that? Why is my motivation, why is my level of ambition not as big? Okay, what do I need to focus on now? And then you start to really internalize uh, life as you would with a more realistic and a more human connection approach. Because when you don't feel well, the thing that binds you with one another, you don't need to you don't need to you don't need to go through a crisis to be able to reach out to somebody. You kind of have to understand the importance of being super tight knit with your support system, as I'd say, to have the ability and the luxury to have that meaningful tribe or crew or family for those that don't have families. Because sometimes I think friends are the family you actually choose, and that's very powerful because you choose them.
I think that is very powerful. And for those out there who might be watching who don't have friends or family close by, virtual technology is a great way to supplement those relationships. But maybe there's an opportunity to think of it from a context of helping other people. Is there an elderly person on your street? Is it somebody who's handicapped? Is it somebody who's got 3 or 4 kids and can't find the time to go get groceries? Is there, find those people who need the help, because what a great way to start building a relationship with somebody than by actually helping and showing kindness and letting them know that you're a human being just like they are, and that we can all recognize when people are struggling. Allie, let me ask you this. How do you think it's changed over 8 months for young people? I think obviously there's structural changes in the sense that kids aren't going to school, and that, a lot of cases it's virtual education. But what has changed in the mindset of youth over the course of the last 8 months as we've grown deeper into the pandemic? What has anything changed? Is it just more of the same stress, the same anxiety, or is there other things that have come to light?
Um, I think I think our behaviors have changed. I think I think people are, and believe it or not, Pete, this may crack us into a little bit of a laugh here, but people are more health conscious. I asked myself, my mom actually told me, Ali, you and I haven't been sick in so long. We've been taking really good care of ourselves. We've been sanitizing. We've been doing this and that. This is the first time ever we actually haven't caught like, a flu or an illness. I'm like, Mom, this is a great realization. And that's for many people actually. Many people feel a little bit more healthier and are more health conscious because we have been feeling super freaky about germs. We've been germaphobes. We don't want to touch things that aren't, that our mind goes a little bit far when we come to think of who might have touched it. And so that's one thing I want to say. We've definitely become a little bit more irritated around germs and around other people just because of the hysteria to a certain degree of the COVID virus. So that's one thing. And I think that there's a pro and a con to that. And of course, we know the con to that. But I just wanted to also point out the pro because that's what keeps me going during these times when I need to find a light in something. But I also think when we speak about feelings, I can definitely say that once again, um, the appreciation of others in our lives, for me personally, has been heightened a lot, and I take active measures every day to have an hour phone call with my mom and to have an hour phone call with a friend. That's something I do every day, and it keeps me going, Pete. And if you would ask me before the pandemic, I'd be like, no, I was too busy. I was too busy to do that. So in reality, it keeps me going. And in reality, those 2 hours fuel me emotionally for the rest of the day. And if I learned something, I learned that pre or post pandemic, these should be staples. And those hours should not change because if anything, they taught me the value of sharing things. They taught me the value of hearing things. They taught me the value of being a good listener. They taught me the value of, you know, being more than just about myself. If my mom has this thing she's working on, I want to know if she's scored that well on a test, that she was practicing. If she's ready, I want to be more involved and not be just more involved on a title basis because I'm a son. No, I want to be more involved because I care about this person and I want to share their success and I want them to share my success. And that is it's just so for me it's the most meaningful thing in life because what's more hurtful than running and chasing? And that I speak for people that are very driven in life like myself, like very productive driven, very time conscious. I speak from that perspective because you'll reach where you want to reach. You will sometimes achieve what you want to achieve, but if someone isn't as happy for you as you're happy for yourself, sometimes those small moments are what make anything worth living for. And be that having a child, be that building a community, be that through any means. But I think that the way to stay connected via actually investing emotionally into other people, it's just beautiful. And I don't think I would have had that feeling of wanting that activity, wanting to pursue that, had I not had the time and the space and the mind during this pandemic. So.
Well, Ali, I need to almost state that was not I didn't seed the answer to that question with you, but that is the greatest answer that as somebody who's been championing a human connection for 4 years could ask for. And I think that is the enlightenment that, this, whether you call it a pause or a reset or however you want to refer to it, you're right that up until the pandemic started, most of us were too busy and distracted to make the time to call that friend and your mom, as you refer to, those 2 calls a day now. And most of us, and this is what we've been championing for 4 years, is helping people recognize how important that human connection is for our health, for our happiness, for our longevity, and for building the community that will be there for you. Our goal was to get people connected before the crisis happened so that you don't go into the crisis and not have that support network there. But I think, yes, this is a crisis, and certainly some people are going through much more challenges than you and I are going through. But if every one of us can learn what you just described, the importance of human connection in going through this pandemic, well, that may be one of the biggest silver linings, in my opinion, that we could ever ask for.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And sometimes, I had the World Health, the Federation for Mental Health president-elect on my podcast, and he caught the virus, during, I think it was April, and on when I was speaking to him, I mean, he's been in the practice for 40 plus years, and he's the consultant for the World Health Organization, and all that cool jazz. He told me one thing that I probably won't ever forget because it's really relevant to this conversation. He said, "Ali, you know what? I've been practicing and I've been diagnosing people and I've been a champion for mental health awareness and giving people with mental health disabilities their rights in Egypt and other countries. But what I've never experienced before was the feeling of what it is like to be a patient, what it is like to be someone that is diagnosed or someone that has gone through this experience during this pandemic. And this has made me realize the power of experiencing something, the power that no matter how senior you may be, how renowned you may be, that the experience is sometimes going to put me in their shoes. So when they speak about it, I am able to connect with them on a deeper level and not take like the 40 that I see or the 20 that I see per day, just on face value. I've been there and it was so challenging and I had to put my entire life on pause. If you were to tell me that the last person I would see would have been 2 months ago, this would have been never in my life because I travel all the time. But now I'm a better person because of that. And now realizing the value of my experience, how that added to me as a person, more so than a professional, more so than any title that I could have earned or that I do possess, that's what allowed me to further become better and to further understand and to be more empathetic as a human being first, and then as a practicing professional second.
I think it's such a powerful comment, Ali, because what I think we know, and there's a lot of work being done on social prescribing, both in the UK and in Canada, is that many of the people in the medical community aren't even aware of how important social connection is to health and happiness. So, going through this will awaken many people, many doctors. I have a similar story with my dentist, who said, for 25 years, he's focused on being a dentist every day. And in one day, people said, you can't do that anymore. And what he recognized by not being able to go to his office every day is that maybe his priorities were wrong, and that maybe his goal and his passion and his purpose in life wasn't actually about making people's smiles whiter and brighter, but it was actually about spending time with his family, which he wasn't doing a lot of before the pandemic. Wow. And so I think the pandemic and the pause is allowing us all to stop and reconsider. Even Dr. Vivek Murthy, who is the former Surgeon General in the US, has said that, over time, he's now recognized that he mistreated, or maybe not mistreated, but recognized how many people were battling isolation and loneliness before he got into the subject and topic, and he wrote a beautiful book called Together, which I should send you a copy of, because it is the most beautiful book in the world, again, highlighting how much we need each other. And if there is a silver lining, again, I can't stress it enough. I think you've said it a few times, how much human connection is a critical component of our health, our happiness, and that this pandemic may have actually awoken us all to just how much we need it in our lives.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Pete. And I think it's, the most important, if anyone watching us were to sort of leave our with one message, I definitely say that there is so much power harnessed when you come together with people that, appreciate, respect, and love you for who you are, whether it be your tribe, your family. Sometimes, because we've often neglected it so much, chasing whatever that may be, or just focusing on ourselves, because there's nothing wrong with focusing on yourself, but sometimes you forget that you forget to prioritize your human instinct, that is to want to share. There's a reason why the Facebook share button is huge. There's a reason why sharing is incredible and very powerful on social media. So we also like to share ourselves, but making making those interactions more meaningful uh, heightens our heightens our quality of life, heightens our senses of security, heightens our feeling that we're not really alone, that we're not wearing a mask all the time. And that sometimes gets a bit tough if you're always in a professional setting, and if you're always wearing a mask, and if you just wish someone were to just dive a little bit deeper into you. My sometimes I ask, if you're that type of person who really wants to get a little bit deeper with people, why don't you take the lead and ask, for someone, and get that depth out of them, and then they'll realize that perhaps you don't all have to wear masks and keep things very surface level. And I think this is very important, because sometimes we just think we need people to reach out to us. We think that we in reality, we don't owe anyone anything. And if anything, we feel so much more empowered, and we feel so much more enlightened when we uh, take that first step. And people often find that very comforting. And we become inevitably more fulfilled within our own lives, that it's more meaningful than whatever that may be that I have had with a coworker or with my boss, that I actually care about. For example, if they mentioned that their daughter, was experiencing or has a championship to go, but is unfortunately not feeling at her best because of the COVID situation, maybe ask about how her daughter is maintaining her endeavors during this time, and that builds that sense of wanting to go that extra level or that next step, caring about people. And because I think it's so easy to say, how do you build meaningful connections? Or you know you just how do you do it? Do you pick up the phone and just call someone, and that's it? I've done that, but it doesn't work, because not all of us are used to that practice. But it's how do you do it, and this is how you do it. It's by anchoring, it's by focusing, it's by listening into what people are saying. And even if someone isn't saying something, but their voice, their tone of voice isn't really coming across as they're okay, perhaps taking that risk and asking them, hey, I've been realizing that recently your tone isn't so great. Is everything all right? That could just completely change someone, and that can completely allow someone to feel safe, that you're actually caring and listening with a high level of degree of care. And to me, that's how you actually break those boundaries and get more personal and get really connected.
Well, I'm really looking forward to attending your 70th birthday next year, because, dude, I'm telling you, listening to you, and this is not the Allie Salama even I knew when we first met a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. your words right now, and what I love is it's all about connection,
100%.
and most importantly, it's about not waiting till people are sick before we recognize how important human connection is. You don't have to have a mental health issue to see the value in human connection. We all benefit. Human connection transcends every illness, every issue, every crisis. And if we all wake up to how important human connection is in our lives, as you've been pointing out for the last 49 minutes, then we will make a difference in the world. And the important thing is, if today you feel good, then maybe you can reach out to somebody who's not feeling good. And tomorrow, when you're not feeling good, maybe somebody will reach out to you. And if we all look out for each other and recognize we are in this together, then I really do believe we can make the world a happier and healthier place just by getting people connected, face to face or virtual for now. But that is how we will make a difference in the world. And I know when this is over, Allie, that there is going to be a celebration of human connection like we have never seen before. Because as you said, I think we'll stop taking these connections for granted because we now recognize how much we need them.
Yeah, and Pete, I think that's going to be a habitual change. I think we will start making connection more so a habit than just like going to the gym. I think people need to understand that just as it is very important to go to the gym and take care and look good, feeling good is going to be a trend when we come out of this, because at least everyone, when I say by they, I mean everyone is going to have the tools and resources to see who they wanted to see, to connect with who they wanted to connect. And no longer will this be a given. It will be a luxury. And I think that people will thrive in these situations and in these social settings. So I'm really excited. But for now, I think we have to also navigate with whatever we have access to and make sure that we are taking care of ourselves in the process.
I love it. My friend, how are you going to celebrate when this is over? What's the first thing you want to do?
I definitely want to fly over to my parents and just see them, and I definitely want to I definitely want to speak on stages as well. And I felt that during this pandemic, I've been taking more time to myself and prioritizing what is really important for me. And I come to the realization that nothing is more important than flourishing in flourishing in what I didn't have access to, which was stages, which were live events. I'm a very lively person, and it might not look like it because the way I speak maybe right now, like I have all the answers. I actually don't, and I consider myself one of the people that, or the types of personalities that maybe struggle on the most on that spectrum, because I live by myself. I'm an immigrant here. So coming out of this pandemic is going to be a big deal for me, and experiencing those connections is going to truly, I believe, transform the way my well-being is. So that's how I'm going to celebrate coming out, and everyone's sort of invited from the general family.
Hey, I can't wait to meet your parents as well one day, because I think that it's a true testament to who you are as a young man, in what the groundwork that your parents laid out for you. So I look forward to seeing the photo when you guys all get connected. So we're going to wrap up here because we're 53 minutes in. I just want to ask you to share with us, where can people find out more about Allie Salama, your speaking, the topics that you're passionate about, your mental health ambassadorship. Let us know where we can go to find out more.
Yeah, for sure. Perhaps on LinkedIn would be the best manner to connect with me, because for English speakers, I've now been using LinkedIn to sort of be speaking in English there and sharing my English message there. And I use my Arabic sort of platform, which is my Instagram, to share more messages there, just because of the nature of the demographics. So if you're from an English speaking demographic, please reach out to me via LinkedIn, and I'm more than happy to connect and see how we can work together, speak, or build a more connected community in whichever way that you may would like. So yeah, I'm so happy, Pete, you got me on this. I love that you called it Connected Conversations, because walking out, I really feel like it served the message and it served the name. So thank you so much.
Buddy, it is my pleasure. I know we'll chat in the next week or so because I think you and I need to stay connected as well. It's great to have you on. Thank you for the passion that you bring to help other people, other youth, both here and in the Middle East, because we need people. And I love that your message is so encompassing and certainly with human connection as a part of it. We're absolutely thrilled to have you as an ambassador for the Genwell Project, because together you and I and many other people who are out there sharing this message will make the world a happier and healthier place by letting people know how important it is to stay connected. So thanks for the time. Thanks for sharing. And I know we'll be in touch soon.
Thank you, P. I appreciate it. Thank you,
See
guys.
you, buddy.
See
Ciao
you.
for now.
Ciao.